Honor du Seigneur.
In the name of the Almighty God and all merciful God, I thank you, Your Excellency, Excellency, President of the Republic of Angola, and outgoing Chairperson of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union. Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and your wife, His Majesty King of Eswatini and His Majesty King of Lesotho, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government of the African Union, and your distinguished wives, Excellencies, the Prime Minister of Italy, Excellency, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellency, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency, the representative of the Palestinian Authority, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. May the peace of God be with you. At the outset, I would like to thank God who has enabled us to gather here in this beautiful city of Addis Ababa. I would like to express my deep gratitude to the Ethiopian authorities for the warm reception accorded us and for the legendary hospitality extended to us during our arrival in this country. And we also express our deep gratitude for what has been the compliments extended to us during our stay here. Ethiopia has once again confirmed its historic role as a land of African unity and dialogue among peoples. I would also like to pay a vibrant tribute to the founding fathers of the African Union, who in 1963 met here in Addis Ababa and decided to transform the Pan-African ideal into concrete project at the service of unity, solidarity, and the sovereignty of the continent. They labored with conviction to make OAU, which became the AU, an instrument of liberation, dialogue, and cooperation among African states, convinced that unity was the pathway to dignity and the progress of the continent, a precious heritage which continues to inspire us. So I will align myself with the others to celebrate the memory, courage of our illustrious forebears. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, from this rostrum, I would like to express my gratitude to you for the confidence that you have reposed in me and through me, the Republic of Burundi and all the Burundian people. This is a heavy responsibility This is a heavy responsibility that you've placed on my shoulders. And emotion compel me to ask, who am I to lead the whole of Africa through to its destiny throughout a year? And through, thank God, who strengthens me, I will be able to do that, because he doesn't choose the strongest, but he rather fortifies and strengthens those that he chooses. Thus, it's with great honor that we accept with humility the duty, with sense of duty and devotion, this duty of serving our continent in its diversity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today more than ever, the honor that you've done to Burundi today is historic. It is the expression of the trust placed in a nation which has suffered a lot from the effects of colonization, a nation which has been adversely affected by history, but which has been able to overcome through dialogue, reconciliation, and political will. So I wish to assure you that Burundi would exercise the chairship in a spirit of listening, impartiality, and cooperation with all and for the good of all. We intend to work with all countries, with the African Union Commission, and with all our organs in the search for consensus. In the same vein, I would like to express my gratitude to the outgoing chair and brother João Lourenço, and I congratulate him for the work done, and I also commend him for the quality of his leadership, his consistency in action, and his unswerving commitment to the African continent. Under the impetus of Angola, the African Union has made strides, especially in efforts to rationalize our meetings, streamline our working methods, and improve the efficiency of our decision-making processes. Burundi intends to continue on the same tangent, and we would consolidate against and maintain the spirit and work together with the champion of the institutional reform of the African Union, His Excellency and Brother William Ruto, and as well as the member states and the Commission, to ensure gradual improvements in order to further enhance the efficiency, coherence, and the credibility of our organization. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the sister republic of Angola has handed over to Burundi against the backdrop of an international contest blighted by considerable geopolitical transformation, security crisis, persistent economic tensions, and the accelerated effects of climate change, and the increasing questioning of multilateralism. In the face of the surge in unilateralism, the challenges to be addressed would require collective response based on dialogue, solidarity, and respect for international law. In this complex environment, multilateralism still remains key to peace, stability, and sustainable development. Thus, The entry of the African Union to G20 affirms this dynamic and marks an unprecedented recognition of the strategic role of the continent in global governance. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, without vision, people perish. And we know where we are going now and what we want and the strategy to be adopted so that we achieve our objectives. So this is a duty and historic obligation for Burundi to reinforce and amplify the voice of Africa on the international scene and contribute actively to the building of a fairer and balanced and inclusive international order. The implementation of Agenda 2063 will be our main concern during this year of our chairship, because this agenda for us is a moral contract which binds us to several African generations and which defines the pathway for an integrated, peaceful, prosperous Africa in charge of its own destiny. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 2026 is under the theme ensuring sustainable availability of water and safe sanitation system in order to achieve Agenda 2063. The theme is not abstract or symbolic. It amounts to a daily reality for millions of Africans. And today, more than 400 million citizens of our continent do not have access to safe, potable water, and more than 700 million are deprived of safe sanitation services. Now, the main victims of this situation are, of course, children, women, and those living in rural areas. The implementation of the theme would thus be the main strategic pillar of all member states of the African Union. In reality, the absence of potable water as well as safe sanitation is the cause of avoidable diseases, loss of productivity, school dropout rate, and is also a factor in ensuring that we're able to deal with climate change. So without effective sanitation services, we will not be able to do much because our productivity is contingent upon the health, and which is driven by potable water and safe hygiene. In Burundi, the roadmap of the vision, and the roadmap of its vision, we intend to expedite access to potable water so that between now and 2040, each rural family would have access to potable water within a distance of 15 minutes. We are of the view that if each African country made an effort to reduce distance to potable water, especially in rural areas, each one of us, as a leader of our citizens, would have accomplished his duty. So I'm happy that the theme of the year has led to the mobilization of sector institutions that are adopted in September in Dakar, the vision of the vision on water 2063. And today, they are holding a roundtable on expediting access to water and safe sanitation in Africa. I'm eager to receive the draft decision so that the conference will be able to adopt and implement the vision and the policy of the continent on water and sanitation. And I pledge to present it as a common position of Africa and its contribution to the UN Conference on Water, scheduled to take place in December 2026 in the United Arab Emirates, as part of efforts to ensure global access to Target 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals and to place the priorities of Africa in terms of water at the heart of international agenda. We shall endeavor to promote cooperation in order to promote solidarity-based governance. The mobilization of public and private and mixed investments to finance water-related projects will be our priority. We shall sensitize all those who intervene in the water sector to directly involve the local communities and women in the management of water resources in order to yield the desired impact, that is, transforming access to water and making it a tool for peace and prosperity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the second pillar of our chairship is on peace building as well as ensuring security that are the prerequisites for any sustainable development and regional and continental integration. We all know, Excellencies, peace is sine qua non for institutional stability, for productive investment, for social cohesion, and for trust among peoples and states. I stress the word peace because Burundi recognizes that the delay in its development was largely due to conflicts, even though it had all the necessary requirements for its development. It has also this happy experience of coming out of conflict through peaceful means and maintaining its peace, which has been restored. During our chairship, we shall spare no effort to promote the initiative of silencing the guns, which embodies the deep aspirations of our people to live in security, dignity, and hope. And we want the African Union to put premium on strengthening complementarity between the African peace and security architecture and then African governance architecture in a holistic approach combining conflict prevention, early warning, preventive diplomacy, mediation, inclusive governance, and post-conflict reconstruction in close collaboration with the regional economic communities and the regional mechanisms in order to restore peace. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the experience on our continent shows that durable peace can only be built through inclusive process of permanent dialogue, reconciliation, reinforcing of national cohesion, and consolidation of institutions. It's also contingent upon the promotion of participative governance, justice, and balanced economic development, as well as taking into account the structural drivers of fragility, especially poverty, persistent inequalities, exclusion of youth, and the marginalization of some sections of our society. We shall once again resort to the dynamism and then the good faith of the youth, whilst also involving women, to reflect on a sustainable strategy for preventing conflicts in Africa. Therefore, and as we do each year, in my capacity as the AU champion for youth, peace and security, I intend to organize in August 2026 in Bujumbura, the capital of African youth, one of the biggest meetings of the African youth, which will be devoted to a continental dialogue on youth, peace, and security, coupled with the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. The forum will be intergenerational and will seek to promote open, constructive engagement between the youth, political leaders, continental institutions, civil society, academia, and the private sector. The purpose is to enhance mutual understanding and to capitalize on African experience and to make effective recommendations that are in sync with the realities on the ground. Through this initiative, Burundi would seek to ensure that the youth take ownership of African youth peace security agenda, whilst affirming the central role of African Renaissance, which we all wish for. In the same vein, the search for peace and enhancing African solidarity, we would initiate a collective reflection on the need to review some institutional practices and their impact, especially those relating to the participation of some states in our work. In reality, in responding to the principles and the normative framework willingly adopted by our organization, especially Article 30 of the Constitution Act, experience has, however, shown that sustainable peace and peace are contingent upon dialogue, listening, and inclusion. Furthermore, the sad observation is that the categorization of these would only make citizens who would sit on the fence and would not be involved in the activities of the state, because though authorities are accountable to citizens and would also have to engage with the external world. And so this calls for a balanced reflection on the most effective modalities to preserve our common values of unity, solidarity vis-à-vis our people, whilst maintaining open channels of communication necessary for mediation and preventing crisis and ensuring the restoration of constitutional order. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, peace and security cannot be effective on our continent if there are countries in Africa that are attacked against the backdrop of geopolitical of economic interests of the major powers. We want the voice of Africa to be raised in respect of international law, the territorial integrity of our countries, the sovereignty of our states, and the rights of people to decide their own destiny. No African country should be recolonized, invaded, or obliged to submit itself to any power in the 21st century. Thus, the human values enshrined in the UN Charter should prevail. Excellencies, our continent will not win the battle of development as long as we have conflict in some parts of the region. The situation in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the Sahel, Somalia, Sudan, and the Central African Republic remind us each day that the crisis in these countries inexorably affects the entire continent. Each conflict undermines our economies and the youth of millions of African youth. That's why I want to appeal to each one of us to support the AU conflict prevention mechanisms and speak with one voice to silence the guns on the continent. Durable stability in some regions calls for solidarity and the commitment of all African states, international partners, and regional actors. The Burundian chairship of the African Union would continue to fully assume its role as catalyst, just as Angola did, so that our joint efforts would help restore peace, enhance the resilience of our people, and open sustainable development prospects and help bring about stability. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the third pillar on which we need to focus on is the future. And that forms part of the vision of African Renaissance based on innovation, science, skills development, and the empowerment of women and youth, which we call ARISE. In reality, statistics show that Africa would have a population of more than 2 billion in 2050, many of whom will be youth. The demographic dividend can be a strength or risk based on the choices we make today. Our capacity to transform the demographic potential into engine of growth, stability, and job creation will depend on the choices we make in terms of education, vocational training, scientific research, and access to jobs. And so here, I want to stress youth employability, because we note that there is a brain drain from Africa to the developed countries. And through ARISE, we need to encourage the reinforcement of educational system, build skills required by the labor market, as well as investments in science, technology, and innovation as essential instruments for the structural transformation of our economies. In our action, the economic and social empowerment of women should be given a pride of place, and it should be cross-cutting in all action, because we are convinced that no sustainable renaissance will be possible without the full participation of women at economic, political, and social life. As the missionary of the African Union, I will continue to contribute with my peers so that states take into account the role of youth and women in development. The Burundian experience in creating Youth and Women's Bank has contributed to the creation of an ecosystem which promotes youth and women entrepreneurship, access to financing, and access to market, especially within the framework of the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And youth empowerment, I intend to do my best and request the youth during the Continental Dialogue on Youth to contribute to the African Renaissance through innovation, and thus strengthen the cultural and digital sovereignty of our continent. Obviously, this transformation can only be dynamic if it brings together all African economic operators among themselves. And this reminds us of the urgency of making operational the African Free Trade Area as a major instrument of industrialization, of boosting intra-African trade, and then building on our regional value chains. So at this stage, I would like to thank all the member states that have ratified the ASCFTA treaty, because now we can effectively launch its operationalization. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to keep in mind that the attainment of our common vision is contingent upon the gradual, coherent, and decisive implementation of the flagship programs of the African Union, which underpin Agenda 2063. Therefore, the development of cross-border infrastructure is sine qua non for the economic transformation, competitiveness of our economy, and effective cooperation among our people. Therefore, so our program will be in line with the development program on infrastructure in Africa, which is the pillar of continental transformation, and which seeks to link our countries through transport, telecommunications, and energy. And it will be remiss on our part if we also don't focus on the permanent search for food security, which underpins any human development. Thus, the comprehensive agriculture development program in Africa would help create jobs and would also enhance the resilience of our economies in the face of the effects of climate change. That's very important. In Burundi, agriculture remains the main means of subsistence of the bulk of our population. And this reality has compelled us to place agriculture, nutrition, and public health at the heart of our national policy. And this experience is guided by a conviction which has become the basis of our public action. Each Burundian should be able to eat in every part of our country. And this translates our vision of a human-centered development, which starts with adequate and healthy food and is consolidated through the capacity of each African to meet his or her needs through his or her work. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the permanent quest for good governance is one of our priorities. And we shouldn't forget the importance of the African peer review mechanism as an essential tool for promoting good governance. Its reinforcement would contributed to enhance trust, promote institutional stability, as well as the credibility of our states, a situation which is necessary for durable peace, inclusive development, and successful continental integration. We shall continue to support the organs of the African Union, the AU Peace and Security Council, the Pan-African Parliament, the African Court on Human and People's Rights, as well as the African financial institutions, because a strong union is based on effective and credible institutions with adequate resources to enhance their operations. And so I would like to pay a vibrant tribute to all the staff of the African Union. Their professionalism, often which goes unnoticed, is essential, and that drives the operations of our organization. Burundi pledges to support their efforts and promote an effective and respected continental organization. In implementation of our priority, we shall attach a premium to the reinforcement of strategic partnership of the African Union based on mutual respect, the alignment to African priorities, and win-win situation. We shall work to consolidate cooperation with the United Nations, international financial institutions, bilateral and multilateral partners, and with the private sector and civil society in order to mobilize resources, the necessary competence to enable us expedite the implementation of Agenda 2063. Excellencies, I'm convinced that Africa is capable of working with its shoulders, with its chest held high through its sons and daughters. The experiences in Africa that is on the move and confident in its capacity of its people to overcome the challenges. We shall ensure that this collective action is carried out in a spirit of inclusion, solidarity, and shared responsibility at the service of the highest interest of the African continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, permit me in closing to pay a vibrant tribute to His Excellency Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, whose mandate is drawing to a close. Throughout these years, he has symbolized the values of multilateralism, dialogue, and international solidarity in a global context blighted by a myriad of crises and unprecedented challenges. Africa would like to commend him for his sustained efforts to promote peace, sustainable development, and ensure that our continent played its rightful role in global development. His support for African Union's efforts, and his call for collective solution will be a source of durable inspiration. And at a time when he is getting ready to hand over the torch to his predecessor, we express our deep gratitude to him and wish him the best in his endeavors at the service of peace, human dignity, and his efforts for a just world. May you now give him a round of applause, because maybe this is the last time that he's participating in the ordinary summit of the African Union. So may the Almighty God continue to guide you, Excellency Secretary General. And it's on this note that I conclude, and I thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention.
Muito obrigado, muchas gracias, shukran, que Dieu vous bénisse tous. Je vous remercie.
I thank you.